Sorry, they didn't meet in 2014. They met earlier than that, but he cheated her in 2014. And he knew that she actually had about $40 million of assets in this 2010 will that she made. And, they got so close that he even became her donee in her LPA. So that if she loses mental capacity, he can come in and manage, her welfare, her properties, and bank accounts even. But luckily, Madam Chang had this niece who was suspicious of him and actually discovered all his ill intentions. And basically what happened in the summary is that she managed to actually get the LPA revoked and get the will rewritten by a court order. And then finally he was jailed for 9 years in 2017. I don't know whether he's still serving, maybe, or maybe he might have been let out early. But so this guy is Yang Yin in the middle, okay, and Madam Chang is the old lady with the hat. So this was back in 2008, all right? So what happened is that she actually had $40 million worth of cash and assets. And she was, I think, a very avid art collector. So he actually helped her amass also like quite a big art collection. But what happened was he actually, as her donee, when she lost mental capacity, he actually started using her money for himself. And her cash in her bank account went from 2.7 million down to 10,000 in 4 years. And I know like he also sold a lot of her art pieces as well, and then he kept the cash for himself. And she owned this property, 2F Gerald Crescent. Okay, I circled this, the one with the swimming pool, I think. Yeah. It's about 31,000 square feet, and the last I saw, I think they tried to sell it in 2018, but I'm not sure. I think I read the articles, they didn't manage to sell it. I think they tried to sell it again, but they reduced the price. So he knew that there was a lot at stake that he could actually pocket for himself. And the main issue here was actually whether the LPA that she granted to Yang Yin, could it be revoked, and whether the will can be changed. And so what happened, and thankfully, they succeeded in actually getting the family justice courts to revoke this LPA, and also under a court order, they actually managed to get the will rewritten. So how did they actually get this done? So basically for the revocation of the LPA, they found out that Yang Yin was actually not acting in Madam Chang's best interest, and he actually sold a lot of her art pieces online for his own profit. And this actually means that he has breached the powers under the LPA. And so the family justice courts managed to revoke this. And for the will, they actually applied for a court order to amend this will, because they actually managed to prove that she may have lacked mental capacity, or she was under the influence of Yang Yin when she was actually doing up the will. So that means her will that was actually done was not in her best interest. And the court will actually, take into some factors about like her feelings, her beliefs, the values, like her current wishes and past wishes even. So let's move on to the next two cases. The next one, I think, if you can see here, I put this packet drink. It is by this family. So actually last time I always thought that, the family's patriarch was called Yeo Hiap Seng, but actually no, that's just the company name. So this next case is actually with regards to the Yeo's packet drink family. And what happened was that, okay, let's look at this family tree. Up here you can see there is Yeo King Lian, who is deceased, the one right on the top. So Yeo King Lian is actually the founder of Yeo Hiap Seng. But we are going to actually focus on down his family tree over here, which is one of his son's family. Okay, so his grandson's family. So over here, the case is actually between two sons of the Yeo family, Charles Yeo and Henry Yeo. That means they are brothers, okay? So brother versus brother. And who is this Madam Ng, right? You can see here, we have circled over here, Ng Lei Hua. So Ng Lei Hua is basically the wife of one of the grandsons of the Yeo Hiap Seng founder, Yeo King Lien. And basically her two sons was fighting over her assets in her will. So what was in the will and what was at stake? So you can see there's a couple of Bukit Timah landed properties and also, portfolio of stocks and shares. So the Sian Tuan Avenue, Watten Terrace, and Hua Guan Avenue. I think I went to go and do a search on Google and then they've been redeveloped already. So basically what the main issue was is that it actually was based on this 2012 will by the mum, Madam Ng. And over here you can see, let's zoom in closer into Madam Ng's family tree. So this is Madam Ng here. You can see her eldest son was going up against her younger son. And within her eldest son's family tree, the eldest son has 2 kids, but the younger son has no children. And so what happened was that Madam Ng actually made a lot of wills in her lifetime besides this 2012 will. And before that, she actually decided that she wanted to give Sian Tuan Avenue to her grandchild John. Watten Terrace will be given to her granddaughter Evangeline. And then Hua Guan Avenue is to be given to their younger son Henry, right? And then the rest of the assets she wants to give to her younger son. However, in 2008 and 2009, she made 2 amendments. She actually decided not to give Watten Terrace and Sian Tuan Avenue to the children of her eldest son, but she changed it and gave these 2 properties to the younger son instead. So that's why it's eldest son versus younger son. So this is what happened. The 2012 will cut off their 2 grandchildren completely and left the 2 houses to her younger son Henry, and she also appointed her younger son to be the sole executor. And what happened was that the older brother, took this to court. He actually decided to put a claim to say that his mom did not have the mental capacity at that point of time when she actually made the changes to the will, and that she did not know what she had executed or she signed. And what happened was that the court actually started pulling in expert evidence. And they actually got Madam Ng's lawyer to come in. And the lawyer actually recounted that she remembered that Madam Ng was actually very clear and, she was very straight to the point. She could articulate, her intentions and why she wanted to make these changes very clearly. And the reason why, they also added is that she gave the reason why she wants to remove the 2 grandchildren as beneficiaries. Why? Because the first grandchild married a non-Christian girl and did not go to church. That's what she said. And she also felt that her son could take care of her granddaughter anyway. The lawyer also confirmed that she was able to check her name, her IC, her address, and she also read the documents before asking the lawyer to explain to her as well. And then later on in 2012, when she made the second amendment, the lawyer also observed that even though she became a bit more weak, but she was still mentally capable, very coherent, very alert. She told her, the reason why she wanted to change the executor to her younger son is because her 2 brothers was getting old, and then her other brother, she wasn't very happy because he divorced and got into a relationship with a Chinese national. So they even brought in the doctor that actually met with her at that point of time, and the doctor confirmed that she was not suffering from dementia. She was not confused. Yeah, maybe she had depression, but her depression did not affect her judgment at that point of time. And the doctor even conducted this ABV test. I think it's called ABV, I'm not sure. But basically they ask you 10 questions to test on your mental capacity. And they'll ask you questions such as, what is the date, who's our current president, all that. And she actually scored 9/10, which is very good. So what happened was that in the judgment, they actually came to a conclusion that she did not suffer any depression during the execution of the will. She was completely mentally capable. She even was able to continue with her activities, even though she was depressed. She could still monitor teletext, play with the grandchildren. She did her weekly marketing. She didn't remove her grandchildren from the will as like spur of the moment. She did think through it carefully. And the reason why she left the bulk of her estate to the son is because, Henry is her favorite son, right? He cared for her throughout her old age. She claims, she said that he treated her with dignity and respect, managed all her affairs. He will send her to church, bring her out for meals, drive her everywhere. So that's why I think the moral of the story here in this case is that, always be nice to your mom and go to church with her, I guess. And so in the end, the court actually held that 2012 will was valid, and they actually granted the probate to the younger son. So lucky Henry managed to inherit 3 Bukit Timah landed properties. And that's why, it's always important to inform your client to get the will drafted by a responsible professional. That we always suggest to go to a lawyer. Don't use those like online generated will, because the clauses that they draft inside might not be valid and might even stand for contention next time after you pass on. And we will look at very last case, and then we can actually take some questions. So I see some questions in the chat. Okay, so this very last case is also about another family dispute. Okay, usually every time there's always a lot of assets and a badly drafted will, I guess, then that's where the disputes come in. But for this case, it's slightly different. So the Yeo's case, the will was drafted fine. There was no issue about how the will was drafted. But for this case that we're going to look at, the will was badly drafted. Okay, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this shipping magnate, Ng Tiao Yi. It's quite sad. Basically, it's the son versus the mother and the rest of the family. Okay, so it is this guy, and this is the case name if any of you are interested. So basically, there is Mr. Sebastian Ng, okay, and he went up against his mother and all his siblings. That means 2 of the other children and several of her nephews as well. So what happened was that Sebastian's father, Mr. Ng, died in 2001, and he left all his assets to the favorite son, Sebastian, and he actually had 8 children. Okay, so this Mr. Ng was actually a shipping magnate, and he made his fortune in shipping, and over several decades, he amassed quite a big fortune. However, but in 2001, once he reached the age of 80, he passed on from cancer. And 4.5 months before he passed away, he actually made a will by appointing his son Sebastian as his sole executor and trustee. And he actually gave his whole estate to Sebastian, but then it was drafted as that he was giving the estate on trust to Sebastian so that Sebastian can hold it on trust for himself, which doesn't really make sense. Okay, you can't hold something on trust for yourself. So what was at stake? Well, these are the few things that was actually included. So there was a lot of shares in his 2 properties. And then also this landed property at Wiltshire Road. There is also, shares in like public listed companies, his monies in various bank accounts, and also, just cash lying around. So this is actually a copy of the will that there was actually shown in court. And, you can just see the part I highlighted in red over here, right at the bottom. It says on trust to be distributed to Sebastian, which doesn't really make sense, right? So this here means that the will was actually badly drafted and there was contention on it. The court actually said that, the will was ambiguous and it's not clear. It's not possible at law for one person to hold estate on trust for themselves. You can't be a trustee for yourself. You can be a trustee for someone else though. And when they brought the lawyer in, the lawyer's evidence also wasn't reliable because the lawyer was only close to Sebastian, but he never contacted or had any contact with the rest of the family. And he also didn't have much details also on like Mr. Ng's instructions, and he himself didn't draft the will. He actually got his junior lawyer to draft the will for him. He didn't explain the will to Mr. Ng, and he didn't even keep any like notes of like the appointment or like any conversations he had with Mr. Ng. And Mr. Ng, he actually spoke Hokkien, and he actually used a certain word in Hokkien which meant, to entrust his assets to Sebastian so that Sebastian can hold it for the other beneficiaries. And he did not mean that Sebastian can hold it for his own benefit. So this was actually why it was considered unreliable evidence. And what they dug deeper into the family dynamics as well, and they found that although Sebastian is considered his favorite son, Mr. Ng all along wanted to provide for the rest of his family. So they actually, managed to find some examples of what Mr. Ng was doing is that, for his three sons, he was actually giving them salaries of like $10,000 a month. An allowance. And he even gave the wife an allowance of 10K a month. And his other son, Raymond, was paid a basic salary of 3K a month. The two daughters was also given a salary of 2,650 per month. Jenny also was given 1,500 allowance a month, and then Edwin as well for all his children. And what they also found was that the wife was very dependent on him until his death, and Mr. Ng loved his wife. And they also managed to testify that the wife loved him back a lot. Also, they had one daughter, Jenny, who is mentally challenged, and he actually arranged a monthly salary for her. So over here, you can see Jenny, 1,500 per month. And it never was, actually deduced that Mr. Ng had any intentions to stop providing for his family. So basically what happened was that the court held that, what Mr. Ng's real intention was that he perhaps wanted Sebastian to hold the estate on trust for the immediate family, and then it would be distributed in accordance with the rules of intestacy. So if you go by rules of intestacy, then his wife will get 50% of everything, and then the other 8 children will split the other half equally amongst themselves. And so that's why, it's very important to always make sure that you approach a responsible professional, and definitely get a lawyer to draft and prepare the will for you, or you need to advise your clients as well. It's always important to get a will drafted properly, because you can take the whole lifetime to amass all your assets. You definitely don't want to let it fall into the wrong hands, or cause disputes among your family members after you pass on. And so I think what you should take away about legacy planning and inheritance is that life is always